In Canada, we are an international leader in sport in many regards. I think, though, this is one of those cases in that we can learn from what's been happening in some other countries. So, for instance, in the UK, they have the Child Protection and Sport Unit, and recently developed in the US is the Safe Sport Center. And it would be great to see in Canada here a third-party organization that take responsibility for athlete welfare. Coaching itself is not professionalized right now. It's highly volunteer-based, and one of the main credentials required to be a coach is to have been a previous athlete. And so one thing that we may want to consider in thinking about the welfare of athletes moving forward is, do we want to professionalize coaching? And with that, there should be certain expectations for certification, education, so that we know that the coaches working with children have been trained and are educated in how to develop the athletes holistically with the athletes' welfare and best interests at heart, and not just looking at performance outcomes.
How can parents be better aware so that they're more involved in what's going on with their child and the athletics they're a part of?
So sport is an environment that has the potential to reap many positive outcomes. Okay, so because of that, though, it runs the risk of being perceived as morally good. And we don't question the sport environment because we just assume that it's only positive. We know from research that parents are often very uncritical of coaching staff and of the authority figures in which their children work with in the sport environment. So research has shown that less than 45% of parents are aware of their coach's credentials, and many are not even aware of whether or not the coach is held by a code of conduct or ethics. So one thing that parents can do is first and foremost, make sure that they have their athletes and their child's well-being at the forefront. It is this parent's responsibility to make sure that the utmost importance is the athlete's health and well-being. It's way too easy for parents to get caught up in performance and wanting their children to do the best that they can to achieve, success, medals, ribbons in the sport environment. But it's the parents' responsibility to make sure that they see the athlete as a child first, as a person first. Really, the emphasis of sport should be on the potential impact on the athlete as a person, with the performance being a secondary outcome. It's less than 2% of athletes at an elite level that may be vulnerable to experiences of sexual violence. That can be anything from degrading, like sexually oriented comments, gestures, all the way up to sexual assault. Emotional abuse, though, is actually experienced by over 70% of athletes at the elite level. And so that's degrading comments, acts of belittlement, humiliation, and unfortunately, these experiences can also be just as detrimental and lead to negative outcomes for the athletes, and they are highly normalized in that environment. And so we have a lot of work to do on educating coaches, parents, and athletes on alternative methods to athlete development and what appropriate interactions should look like in the sport environment. Hopefully through this, more athletes are willing to share their stories, and with that, it inspires the development of more prevention initiatives so that this doesn't happen to another athlete again.